Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, welcome to today's episode of MSP Mindshare, everybody. It's a live webcast where we're here to bring more knowledge to MSPs, and really excited about today's session, covering some MSP exit stories. I know there's been a ton of M&A panels out there and all talking about how to prep your business, what you need to do in the business, considering your exit strategy. But nobody ever seems to talk about what life is like on the other side of the exit. So today we wanted to cover that, and so we'll pop in and kick the show off here. So bear with us just 1 second. All right, so some of you guys might be wondering who Gradient MSP is and what's this company about that's hosting the show, and it's fairly new and you haven't heard of it before. It all really boils down for us that Gradient's just all about helping MSPs make better decisions. As a business owner or an IT business owner, your days are plagued with making business decisions, and whether it's on your business, in your business, and about it. And so we're pulling together some technology, some data, some information to just help empower you to make better decisions to drive better outcomes. A little bit about me. I'm your host today. My name's Colin Knox. I'm the founder and CEO of Gradient MSP. I was the founder and former president of a fast growth MSP. I exited that business in 2016 by acquisition to F12.net. I'm also the founder and former CEO of Passportal, if you heard of that. We exited and were acquired by SolarWinds back in 2019. I am a shameless superhero and comic book fanatic. I know there's nothing behind me because I keep it all in front of me so I can enjoy it, not my viewers to enjoy it. And I'm a hopeless car racer. I like the racing, I like the cars, I'm just not that good at it. So a little bit of housekeeping for the session today. Yes, this session is being recorded. We will send it out to everybody. If you have to sneak away for a bio break, to get some water, to deal with kids, your dog, or some work, we'll get you a copy of this so you don't miss any of the content. This is an interactive session, so not only are your questions welcomed of the attendees, but we actually expect them. So come forward with questions, pop them in the Q&A chat bubble of the Zoom webinar here, and we'll be happy to cover them with the panelists. And just wrapping up, this is all about MSP knowledge sharing. We're not here with egos, we're not here with sales or pitches. It's to just get better information and more information and education in your hands to help you drive your business forward. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panelists. We're joined today by Jim Turner and his friend Bernie. Jim was the founder of Hilltop Consultants, which was acquired recently by IntelliTeach. Also joined by Josh Kotler, who was the founder of Western Digitech and acquired by Compass MSP, where he's now the interim, I believe, CEO. And then Stephen Freidkin, who's the founder of Entiva, and they were acquired a little bit different by Southfield Capital a few years ago. And both Josh and Stephen remain in the business, running as the CEOs right now. Jim, I think you're still in the business. Yeah, welcome to the show here, guys.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks, Colin.
So I think we've had some good chats prepping for this webcast today, talking about some of the things that have gone on, both kind of as you're closing the deal, wrapping up some due diligence, and then life's like after. I think there was one story that was shared, which we'll aptly rename maybe to Balloons and Bubbles, about what it's like when the deal closes, right? So I think we all had slightly different closing experiences, but maybe we just do a little round table here on what your closing experience was like and what surprised you, and kind of what that day really felt like for you as an exiting business founder. So
yeah, look, I'm happy to get that one started. It's obviously a big day, was a big day in my career, and not one that I'm going to forget, but it was a big day because of what happened, not because of how it felt, right? So one of the things that I think we all experienced is that closing day is almost like any other day. It's super anticlimactic. Um, you know, the closing process takes place over a lot of days and weeks, and there are dozens of documents that get negotiated and signed. But when it's over, and generally it's over before the day you close, there are one or two signatures, and then nothing. And Stephen, I'm giving Stephen some time to come up with some new descriptors for his version of his day, because that has to happen. But very meaningful day. I can remember most of it, but nothing big happened. Even the actual wire transfer itself, for me, wasn't the big deal. I didn't sit there hitting refresh on my browser. I didn't even log into my account. My controller told me, and I just sort of said, "Okay, cool," and that was it. Um,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Josh, I can jump in from here. From my perspective, it was late 2015, early 2016 that I realized, in order to fulfill my goal of growing an MSP, that getting support of private equity would be helpful. I started a process in the beginning of 2016, interviewing 24 companies on my own, narrowing it down to what would make sense for me from a cultural standpoint. So again, this was less about me finding the highest enterprise value and a fast exit, and more of getting some enterprise value and a good chunk of money for myself, but at the end of the day, supporting the business and what we wanted to do going into the future. So I was very, very focused on picking the right partner. And I spent almost 7 months figuring out who that would be. At the end of that process, we negotiated an LOI, and then we were closed within 47 days of the LOI. So it was a very, very intense process. I mean, just to give you some perspective, there were points where there were private investigators hired, and I'd get calls from the private equity group, and they'd call me up on the phone and say, "Hey, it says that you didn't graduate from college. How come you didn't tell us that?" I'm like, "You never asked me. What makes you think that I didn't disclose something correctly?" "Well, on LinkedIn, it says you attended university from 2001 to 2005. I said, "Yeah, I did." So just to give you examples of the level of detail that they would get into, and then reps and warranties and disclosures. This was like death. Remember, I'm still running an 80, 90 person MSP and doing the day-to-day grind that's involved in that, where we're all redlined and spending every free moment I have representing everything I could possibly imagine in 50 pages of legal docs. And I go through all this, and I'm excited about the future of the company. We already have the plan, and we know exactly how we're going to put this capital to work. I come home super excited on the day of close. I get on this closing call. There's 15 attorneys. God knows how much that cost me. And it was, as Josh described, completely anticlimactic. At the end of that call, it was, "Does everybody agree? Yes, 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 yes." Click. I did refresh my bank account screen quite a bit, waited for it to come in, come running to my wife, expecting balloons, maybe a nice dinner. And what does she do but say, "Oh, that's awesome. My brother's moving tomorrow. Can you come help me move his stuff?" I was like, okay. So that was really my story and what that felt like. And it didn't really feel any different for me until about 6 months into the relationship. We were already in the process of executing around the goals we had set for ourselves. Having the outside capital to accelerate that was fantastic. But it wasn't until 6 months when I really had a bad day. And, I'll describe it. I don't know how well anybody on this understands the DC area, but traffic pre-pandemic was hellacious. And it was a tough day. I had 2 employees quit and a client fire us. And I was miserable. It was maybe 1:30 in the afternoon, and I was depressed, and I wasn't just portraying myself as the best version of myself in the office. So back when people had offices and couldn't just turn off the camera, I decided I'm going to go home. Got in my car, got on 495 to go 6 miles home, complete dead stop. 90 minutes later, I'm screaming, I'm cursing, and this just wave of comfort came over me, where I realized, oh my goodness, I can quit my job. That was the first time in 24 years when anything like that was even imaginable. And it gave me this level of control that I never had. And I made an active choice, not just to not quit my job, but to show up and frankly, do better every day past that point. And I've loved it from that perspective.
That's good. So let me ask Josh, I forget when your close date was, but did you close pre-COVID?
I closed December 23rd of 2019. So
So you're
pre-COVID.
pre-COVID. So I guess
I saw it coming.
I guess
That's why I closed. I saw it coming.
you're prophetic. So I guess I am the only one that closed during COVID. So much of what we did was just through email, and then we had weekly calls.
You think you would have actually closed if they met you in person?
That's a good question. We had met in person, met up at Legal Tech in New York. They came out to our office once. So I guess there were maybe 2 in-person meetings during the whole process. To this was, weekly Zoom calls, working through our punch list, uploading things to the doc room. But anticlimactic is a great way to explain it, because everything was just over email, a bunch of DocuSigns.
Yeah.
And on the last day, it was, do we all agree that we agree to everything that we signed? Yes.
Yeah.
And in our case, we closed, we finished everything. And I want to say that the last conversation was at 4:30 in the afternoon. And apparently, if you don't click submit on the wire transfers before 4 o'clock,
Wait till next day.
to the next day. Well, in our case, I think it was 4:30 on a Friday. So here we are sitting in limbo saying, well, we think the money's coming. And then there it was on Monday. And my favorite thing was I had a minority shareholder who was probably the most challenging through the process. And it was my brother-in-law,
No.
investor. And I just remember all of his concerns about everything and the protections that he needed, and how he actually took a slightly different route. And on a lot of the documents that needed to be signed, he had a little bit more pushback than I did. Well, come Monday, his money's not there. Everybody has the money on Monday. And it's like, son of a bitch. If something could go wrong, it had to go wrong with the brother-in-law. So then I'm hearing it from him on the Monday about, well, where's the money? Oh, I don't know. I got mine. Well, I don't know what yours is. But it was all straightened out by Tuesday, and everybody was happy as a clam. So that was good. But I felt, and there still may be people who are watching this webinar who might close during COVID. And I think that there's some considerations about what to expect there, because I think that our whole process would have gone a lot faster had we been able to put the guys from IntelliTeach and the guys from BV on a plane to come to my office and have some conversations. We probably could have worked through a lot of the questions a lot faster, and probably would have saved on some legal fees too. I got to imagine that there's back and forth with email and the calls with the attorneys. So I think if anybody's looking at doing a close on a deal, within the next 3 months, 6 months, that they should be prepared for that.
We've closed 2 deals. So Compass is highly acquisitive, right? We're looking to do some pretty big things, and we closed 2 deals during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that it moved much faster, right? I think I understand your point. As the buyer, I would have felt a lot better if I could have spent more time in the offices of the company that we acquired, right? Because you just learn so much, and you can ask better questions. But I don't know if the sort of post-LOI closing process would have gone any faster. I kind of feel like having lawyers working from home made them more accessible, easier to get together on group calls, because everyone's just sort of working all the time.
Well, I would say, Hilltop had done a couple of acquisitions before we were acquired. We acquired the guys in Atlanta and the guys in Philly, and I felt that those moved a lot faster. Now, maybe it was also a little bit of a different dynamic. And then there's the perception of me as being the buyer, not the seller. So I'm sure there's that. But they definitely, if I were to look on the calendar, took half the time to close. And also remember, COVID scared a lot of people. I know a lot of people worried if their deals would even close during COVID. So I would say this, that there's probably some motivation for sellers to move quicker during COVID before the buyer changes their mind. So, just because of the risk of the economy.
I kind of lean towards Josh's perspective there. So we've also done 2 acquisitions through COVID, and I'd say there's no real change, positive or negative, in terms of the speed at which the close was done. And I would say it was fairly good to have access to the attorneys when we needed them a little bit faster than we had before. But from my personal perspective, I'll echo this as well. I would have much rather seen some of these folks face to face. I would have liked to see offices. You know, I felt pressured to get this done because we needed to, and it turns out they were good acquisitions, which is wonderful. But I personally, you know, even though I'm a technologist, I love Zoom. I would have much rather gone and seen folks eye to eye, and frankly, seen the kind of energy levels at the offices.
I made a couple of trips in both cases, but to your last point there, Stephen, I was going into half-empty offices.
Right.
And they were only half empty because the seller, you know, told people they had to come in while I was there. So you can't quite get the same feel that we all have for, you know, for a business.
Yeah. So you guys have talked about a few things. One was the anticlimactic thing. I think I had a similar experience where I came home and was expecting some kind of high five or bottle of champagne and just got asked if I remembered to pick up the milk on the way home. I'm also not ashamed to admit that I went and had a big nap when I got home that day because the due diligence closing process was exhausting. You know, I think there's a couple things that I'll hit on. You know, Stephen, you mentioned that like you got the one day, so there was the realization day 6 months after, but the big thing is you were sitting in rush hour, and the thing that came really clear to me after we had our first exit was the world doesn't care if you have money, and money doesn't make you any more important because you're still sitting in rush hour. You don't have a special lane you get to drive through, you know, I guess, unless you're like super rich and you do the helicopter thing. But, you know, you still have that. You still get the crappy parking spots at the mall when you go shopping. Your kids don't behave any better. You know, it's all the same stuff that way. But your realization there of that, you know, you could quit your job now. And that is a relieving freedom or flexibility that you have. So maybe I'll ask you guys, what is it that keeps you driven today? I mean, Josh and Stephen, you're both, you know, heading up those companies still. Jim, I don't know your exact situation, if you're in a term or if you've taken your specific position, but I know there's some similarities you and I have from my last exit. But what is it that keeps you guys driven today? Like, get up and I am going to go to work, and, you know, I am going to do the job that's before me.
So in my case, and I just want to real quickly note that I am no longer the CEO. I'm now the Chief Strategy Officer and head of M&A.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Acquisition. What's that?
I don't have an applause soundtrack, sorry.
I think, yeah. So I'll tell you what gets me excited. After 20 plus years of running an MSP and being in everything, and frankly being a little bit ground down by being in everything, we were 30 people when I exited, and that's, you know, that's good scale for an MSP, but I think life at 70 or 80 people for Stephen was probably a little different. I got a chance to both not do the things I didn't want to do and do some things that were new to me that I was really interested and remained very passionate about. So for me, you know, I'm working with our CEO on our strategy, and I'm out in the market looking for companies that want to be a part of what we're doing at Compass, and I get to evaluate, you know, MSPs all day long and talk to sellers and have great conversations doing things I love to do, and I don't have to deal with an HR issue or a customer that's upset because our help desk is 3 minutes slower on tickets. That part feels really good.
Jim, do you want to add?
So, you know, so my new role, you know, I'm a EVP of business development. So I think what we've determined is probably the best thing that I can do to help the company is helping us to build into new markets, you know, because that was a big part of what interested them about Hilltop, how I was able to expand into the Atlanta and Philly markets, focus on the legal vertical. So what's exciting to me is looking at where else we can take this model that we built with legal focus managed services, leveraging the scale of IntelliTeach, and then expanding into new markets, whether it's New York or Dallas or Los Angeles or wherever else it might be. So that's exciting because, you guys all know I love to talk. I love to come out and visit other MSPs. I love to come out and visit other parts of the country. So that's where the focus is. And Josh, I have to agree. It's so nice not have to be that point of escalation for that ticket on the help desk that went sideways, when you have a team in place that you can just trust that they're on top of it.
You're an engineer, Jim, so you could actually do something that escalated to you. They just complain.
A couple of years ago, I was pretty helpful with that, but now, I can barely find the control panel on Windows, So, I much prefer the relationships and having those conversations and just getting out and meeting people. And that's a lot of fun, and so I'm very happy that I made the choice to join on with this team because they allowed me to focus on that. I never had to take on the responsibility that both of you had to take on with your acquisition. So more power to you on that one.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that, Jim. And gentlemen, over the years, I've learned when escalations hit my desk, the answer is almost always DNS related. So if you guess that way, you'll be right at least 80% of the time. But from my perspective, this was this was again very different. So back in 2015, I was at a fork in the road for myself. Do I continue to grow and scale this company? Or do I frankly shrink where I can keep my finger on the pulse of everything that was going on and focus on a smaller market? And in the process of evaluating that, I realized I didn't even know why we existed. And it came down to me not being able to answer that question. So I spent some time trying to figure that out. And this is a conversation for another day that I'll happily go into detail with, but landed with the fact that we created a company that was quite magical. And the majority, like 9 out of 10 employees that I would talk to after them being here for about 90 days would all tell me the same story, that in that 3-month period of time, they've learned and grown more than they have in their prior job or their formal education, sometimes combined. And what that would do is put like a giant smile on my face, like I'd ear-to-ear grin for 2-3 weeks after every single one of those meetings. And I realized when I was looking for that why, and I put money aside, like it was great to get a paycheck, it was great to provide for my family, I kept coming down to the level of value that I was receiving, seeing that I was making a positive impact on people's growth. So from that day forward, I said, you know what? I have a company that exists to grow people. And I, as a result, want to grow the company. We're in a very unique space where the industry is fragmented. I believe that we are doing this in a way where people growth comes first. And as the fragmentation ultimately becomes consolidation, I wanted to be a consolidator, not the consolidated. And I was simply looking for a partner to help me do that without putting at risk my family, which I'm very fortunate to have a big family. I have 5 very young kids. To those that are thinking it, no, I'm not religious. Yes, I am done. The 4th was on purpose, but the 5th was a bonus. And I'm again very grateful for that, but really wanted to be cautious to not sacrifice the safety and security of my family for creating this dream.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. So interestingly, I think we all enjoyed and felt this relief of not being, in some cases, the sole decision maker and in total control anymore, because quite frankly, that's the number one stress of the MSP owner or any business owner, right? As you go to sleep at night, just sitting there thinking, what's cash flow like? What's happening here? How am I going to deal with this? And to have, whether it's a financial partner and sponsor like you've got, or if you had this full exit, I know on my last exit, it was the demotion thing that was interesting, moving from being CEO to then being a director of product strategy and having to deal with that. So I think the next thing that I'd pose to you guys, and by the way, if anybody attending has questions, do shoot them in. But the next thing is how did you prepare yourselves to no longer be that key decision maker or the one that's in control of your baby. You know, you built this thing up, you have nothing but the best intentions for it. You want to protect it and shield it and have it go. But, you know, the day that all the ink dries, that's not on you anymore, which is relieving, but it's also concerning. So how did you guys prepare yourself for that part of the journey?
So that's a challenge that I would encourage people who are considering an exit to really put time into, getting their heads around. In my case, I went into the acquisition with a particular job description lined up for me. I was going to, build out our legal market in Florida, relatively limited role, and I did that on purpose. I wanted to have a little time and space post close to figure things out. Frankly, I wasn't sure that I was going to be with Compass in a year. I didn't know what to expect. Through a few twists and turns, I ended up as the CEO. So right back in the same seat, didn't have to confront, that change. I'm doing that now. Most days, I've got a smile on my face for 10 hours, however long the day is, because this is what I wanted to do. But there are days where I miss the level of control, the being the last word on issues. And you have to prepare yourself. I mean, you have to prepare yourself for working in a team environment, having a different role. To really think about, most folks that are out there owning and running an MSP are doing it because they're probably not great team players. They had a need to be in charge, and for whatever reason. And you got to get that reconciled prior to the transaction, and know that it won't go perfect all the time, and that's okay. There's a great trade-off for it, right? The great trade-off is you don't have to worry anymore. If you want to do your job well, you still worry, you still have some stress, but it's totally different, and to me, much better.
Jim, how about you?
Oh,
looks like we might have lost. It's me and you now, Josh.
Yeah, well, that's
just the two of us. Oh, Jim's coming back.
Those are words that no one likes to say, right? Just me and you, Josh.
It's just the two of us.
That's tough.
Just got a whole lot more intimate.
I just reconnected.
There you are. Now you're back. Looks like we lost Steven. I don't know if he's had some internet challenges.
Well, we've got some snow and ice down in the Bethesda area right now, so I'm wondering if something just happened there.
Oh, that's both of you.
Right? Maybe, yeah.
So we don't have any in Miami, Colin. It's 75 degrees out and sunny.
So Josh, sorry I missed as you were finishing up on that. I found that the way I staffed Hilltop helped me to prepare because I had hired a COO and I had a team that a lot of the day-to-day that they were handling, and I was focused on business development prior to our acquisition. In my case, I was ready to have somebody else take that role of CEO and to have that CFO. I think that was really helpful for me. So in my case, it was a relief to have this team, and Intelligence. They were just a much larger company with they've been doing this really in the same industry as I've been. So there was really not a lot of a learning curve for them to learn how to do best with what I had built at Hilltop. So yeah, I guess what I would say is for me, it was a relief to have somebody else step in and help me with all those things.
Yeah.
Every day I used to say this, that I was never trained to be the CEO of a company doing $19 million a year. And 2 years before that, I was never trained to be a guy who's doing $10 million a year. And we just had this growth of revenue through our acquisitions and just through our success, that it was great to have somebody who'd been there before to help me carry all of that, carrying the weight of the company on your shoulders. I've had conversations with friends about this, and maybe this is why I get along with Josh and Steven, is we're kind of in a unique role, and it's hard to even find people in our lives that can relate to what we've done and what we were doing. being the CEO of a company like this, it can be a sort of a very lonely existence. People get, why you're worried about that one client with that one complaint. Why is that so important? People who haven't built something like this and don't have so much skin in the game. So it's, I think it's really cool that I've been able to connect with these guys and even have conversations like this.
Yeah, look, I mean, Tim, you and I have known each other for a while now. I'm surprised to hear you say this, because you always struck me as someone who loved being the CEO. Maybe there's a reckoning coming. Just keep your eyes open for that.
Yeah, no, you know what? So far so good. Nothing crazy has come my way.
Yeah.
I think I think it's been a relief. Sure. We'll do this again in a year, and let's see how we're all feeling. See what we miss and what unanticipated benefits we see from these transactions.
I think Stephen said it well when he said, take away the money and figure out what your why is. Why are you doing this? Why are you working this hard? Why are you in this business? Why do you like your role or not like your role? And I think it's really important. I think one of the things that selling does is it does take away the money as an issue. If you've built your MSP to a good scale and you've done the right things in your personal life so that you're in a good position going forward, it takes money off the table at all. I don't think about money at all.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot to prepare for.
That's good. So Colin, you mentioned something at the beginning, and I hope we can talk a little bit more about it, because I think it's an interesting thing about what doesn't change in your life once you sell on the personal side. And that's the part that really, I think, Colin, when you and I started talking about having this conversation, I feel like that's what we first started talking about. About on a personal level. I think your story is about waiting in line at the mall and getting the crappy parking spot.
Yep.
Josh, do you have anything like that? Anything that was that you sort of thought would be different after you sold?
I didn't. I live a pretty low cost lifestyle. I mean, I'm not cheap or anything, but I'm lucky enough to have a fair amount of ability to get crazy if I wanted to. There are other things I'd rather do. So I didn't expect anything to change. Wouldn't really want anything to change. I like it. I never go to the mall anyway, so that wasn't a thing to do. But it is important. I've seen this a lot, as people go through these transactions. I think it's a really important thing for people to let that settle in, let the transaction settle in financially. Don't go spend a bunch of money, maybe buy yourself a gift, something like that, spend a little bit of it, but let it settle in, right? The real value of money is not having to worry about money. So, don't go play ball at the mall.
What I thought is amusing is that my wife and I are both as frugal.
And there goes.
Looks like the DC internet connection issue again. I know Stephen's been trying to reconnect here too, but I think it's interesting. I mean,
man, this internet's killing us today.
You're back.
I am, but I don't see Josh. I see you.
I'm still here.
Oh,
okay, good.
Josh is there.
So where was I? Oh, about things that don't change is my wife and I are both very frugal, and we haven't changed. So all the chores that I would do myself instead of paying people to do, that's still the same. Or the things that my wife does to save money, those are still the same. And I think that's interesting how the money didn't change us from doing that. Because man, I still rake my own leaves. I still clean up after, all that stuff.
Well, let's not go crazy.
I still do all that. Well, you got a different landscaping situation down there in Miami, I'm sure. You're grass every day.
Someone else is dealing with that one, but it's just a thing. It's not private jets and champagne. Shouldn't be, but it is nice to know that if you want to take a private jet, you can.
Yeah.
You know what? But my daughter pitched me on that when she didn't for our next vacation. I didn't quite get convinced on that one though.
No. Yeah, I think, you know, it's I'll circle back a little bit, just the reality, and Josh, you had a lot of really great advice on that, is if you're prepping and you're dreaming of selling your business one day, or you're starting to go through it, it's the realization that you will have to give up control. I know the one way that I dealt with that was realizing that the company that's buying me, while I may not agree with all of their decisions, first, I need to very thoroughly assess and choose the right acquisition partner that I have the confidence in that will do well with it. And then the other is that chances are, and I know that there's some reverse takeover type acquisitions and stuff, but chances are most of the time they've built a bigger, stronger, in many cases more successful business than what you have. And so it's a great learning opportunity, much like Jim said, you know, however long ago he wasn't the CEO of a $10 million and then a 15 and a 20 or $19 million organization. Well, it's this whole opportunity to learn how the bigger beast runs and how decisions can get made and what got them there. So, you know, to have that opportunity for me was welcome and kind of overruled the cons of being like, oh, I don't think that was the right decision, but
You know, that's a great point. When sellers are evaluating, you know, a purchase or sale opportunity, it is extremely important to be aligned with and aligned with the strategy of the company that wants to acquire you. Hopefully, that's part of the diligence process anyway. But aligned culturally, and to, you know, to sell to a company that you're going to really, you know, that's filled with people that you're going to enjoy working with. You know, you have to respect the company that's acquiring you for what they've done, to your point, Colin. And if you're around great people, I mean, in my case, having the opportunity, particularly with our CFO, who I think is, you know, that was a blind spot for me. So I'm learning a ton from him, and our board chairman, right? And for people that will stay in a management role, chances are you have a board to deal with, which is a new thing to think about. Our board chairman is, you know, I feel like I'm getting an MBA working with him. So that's just been a great fit.
Yeah,
but I would
it's a
encourage people to
rewarding.
look at that.
It's just rewarding, I found. We've had a couple really good questions come in. So one of them was, you know, as you look to join a bigger organization through selling your business, you know, what are some of the benefits of the scale that larger organization provided? That, you know, there's all the ones that you expect, like more opportunity for your employees and you know, expansive reach and stuff like that. But what are some of the benefits of scale that you guys experienced joining a larger organization that you didn't necessarily expect?
So in our case, having access to as many professionals with experience in the legal vertical for us, that was huge. You know, we my plan was always to grow legal focused, whether it was continuing with Hilltop making acquisitions, and eventually with our acquisition by a legal focused service provider, we're able to really continue that focus, but have much greater access to people with the right industry experience, as well as the capital, and our board and our team just having that understanding of the legal vertical. That's been huge for me. And obviously I'm not in the same role had I continued to make acquisitions, but the end result, I believe, is going to be very similar, where we continue to grow this company, focus on legal, grow nationally, which is what I always wanted to do. And, you know, just having all those people has been fantastic for us.
Yeah, I echo that. I think it's the combination of all of a sudden, you know, you go from one day where you're carrying most of the load, and maybe you don't have the people or the team that you need to grow toward your BHAG. You know, if you're operating under, you know, with the BHAG, I hope everyone is. That's a big, hairy, audacious goal. It's a Stephen Collins concept, or Jim Collins, excuse me. You know, having resources to scale fast, it's a big deal. So yeah, absolutely, created a much better situation for my employees. I had a lot of great employees, and I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to grow fast enough to keep them engaged, to help them fulfill their goals for their careers. So that was a concern. I had clients that, frankly, needed more things that I didn't provide, and I was worried about potentially not being able to get that to them and losing that. So when I sold to Compass, all of a sudden, we're 210 people right now. So the expertise that's available, the growth that's been made possible. I've got a bunch of my people that are in corporate roles or doing things across regions that are really exciting. It's been all that.
Yeah, I think when I look back to the deals that I did, the one thing that surprises me every time, for whatever reason, is, as the president or CEO and top of the company, yes, the buck stops at you, but that also means that you're doing all the jobs that nobody else wants to do, right? You're the chief janitor, you're the chief everything. And the nicest thing is when you come into the larger company and you're starting to go down a path and just do the one thing that nobody else in your organization traditionally wanted to do, or didn't have time to do, or whatever. And then somebody else in the bigger org goes, oh no, we have a whole team of people that does that. Just pass that over there and they're going to do it, right? We got a guy, we got a girl for that. And that was one of the most unexpected but nicest things that I came into, which was just, wow, I don't have to do these things I don't like, and yet you pass it off, which was kind of nice. We have another question that came in, that there's lots of solicitations of MSP owners happening out there. I mean, you have the Compasses, you have the Intivas, likely the IntelliTeachas, and even just overall advisors that are trying to convince MSPs to sell their business, that this is the time and you're an acquirable state. What advice do you guys have for the MSP owners that are considering a sale in selecting the right M&A advisor to assist through the process? Now, I know I didn't use a broker on my first deal. I sure did the second time. That was a major lesson learned. But how did you guys go through the selection of an advisor for this? And it looks like Stephen might be dialed in now to join us on the audio.
Yeah, I am here, all, and
Yes.
Despite my attempt troubleshooting this as a DNS problem, it appears to be all I was able to get on with voice only. Apologies. I'll echo Colin there. My first and only transaction was done just with me. And while I felt like I made the right choice in the partner that I selected, now being on the other sides of these transactions where there are advisors involved, things are a little more efficient, a little less emotional, and almost always go for a few extra dollars. So where I was trying to, frankly, be cheap and save money through the process, I probably could have done better if I had engaged a sell-side advisor. With that said, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of those advisors out there. If somebody wants to reach out to me specifically for a referral in your area, I'm happy to do so. But like with any other trusted advisor, I'd suggest that you interview a few and make sure you have a good connection with them before engaging. This is going to be one of the most kind of deep, intimate, sensitive things you ever do, believe it or not. And you want to make sure you're working with someone that can represent you well and you trust.
Yeah, it's I guess I have a different opinion. I did not work with an advisor. I did talk with multiple buyers when I went to sell. And, part of that was about just sort of getting a sense of, where valuations were. But really, I sort of looked at it as interviewing prospective buyers to find the right company, right? While I did it, I kind of got the right valuation. And honestly, for the people that are out there thinking about selling their company and they're thinking about selling it for, 9 million or 7 million, I tell you that it sounds crazy, but that doesn't even make a difference. It's just not even, it's not significant. What is significant is ending up with the right company and doing the right things for your employees. And, being a part of a company that has a mission that you're ready to sign onto. And I think that if you work with a great advisor and you cover that stuff, then that's fine. The advisor will help you navigate this, although it's not overly complex. Obviously, a good deal lawyer is really important, but one thing that can happen is you can have an advisor who doesn't understand your motivations. You end up with a bit of a mismatch, and the advisor ends up taking you to a place that isn't the best place for you to go. And you might get a few extra bucks for that. Now, I don't know whether you'll get a few extra bucks after you pay your advisor, but I would submit that that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is talking to a lot of buyers and finding the right one for you.
And Josh, I agree with you, but for a different reason. In my case, it was finding people to talk about what I specifically wanted to do, which was grow into the legal vertical. I had, as most MSP owners have, whether it's dozens or even 100 inquiries from the various advisors, bankers, private equity funds, other MSPs reaching out. But if the guys that found me, early on, that brought me to the IntelliTeach deal, their thesis was to build within the legal vertical, and they were already there. So if, in my case, if they didn't want to talk about that focus, that was a non-starter for the conversation.
Yeah.
I very specifically knew what I wanted to do, and
right, Jim.
just,
that's an
company.
excellent point, and that's exactly where you use the advisor, right? So not all of us, there's hundreds of thousands of companies out there that are willing to invest capital, and the advisors that are right can get you in front of the right ones that match with your goals. So that's absolutely value add. So Jim, I think, is that what you're trying to say there?
Yeah, well, in my case, it was if very early in the conversation, if I didn't see that they had the right relationships for companies that wanted to grow into legal, that how I knew that they wouldn't be the right advisor on the deal. And that's why, I made very quick conversations if there was some advisor or some firm that reached out, but it was very easy to determine that they weren't the right fit for me. And then when the right firm came around, it was obvious because they knew the conversation to have.
Yeah. Well, I think, much like as running an MSP, it's helpful to be vertical specific in the clients that you're dealing with. And because you learn the ins and outs, the nuances of how they do business, the tools they use, how they're best set up. For me, it's the same thing, making sure that you're choosing and meeting with M&A advisors who understand IT service businesses. You don't want to be talking to the M&A advisors who have a client that's a PE or a family office that just decided they want to buy an IT company, and all of a sudden, but normally they sell construction companies or legal firms or dental practices. So finding a company that understands how your business runs, what your business model is, and how to properly value that is where you're going to get the biggest bang, I found. The other big bang that I found in having an M&A advisor to begin with is during the due diligence and during the closing process, there's some very critical and difficult conversations that occur. And that can range from anything from financial to decisions that have been made in the business to the valuation of the company to who stays and who goes. And if your anticipation is to continue on with the business after, or the expectation from the other side is for you to continue on after, you can leverage that M&A advisor who doesn't have to keep the good relationship with them after the deal closes, and they can fight for you and talk up on your behalf without you closing the deal and showing up to work the next day being like, hey guys, and they're like, you're an ass for saying this during due diligence or whatever else. So you're starting with some horns, buddy.
And that sounds strangely specific.
So that's good. We've got kind of 10 minutes left here. We had another question that came in. Question / comment. So they're looking at potentially giving up a third of their business to a family-run equity investor that wants to get into the IT space. They respect the business that's being run and stuff. So first question is, they're wondering if it technically qualifies as an exit to give up 2/3 of the business. I would say yes, because it's a change of control.
Right.
So I think so. You're just taking some cash off the table and letting the rest ride. But
The beginning of the end. One way or
yeah.
the other, it's the beginning of the end.
So the interesting part of this question there is, realizes that you can't do the deal unless it's a perfect fit or best fit. But how do you simultaneously prepare for it to fail? And I think this is a great question, because I cannot remember the stat now. My investment banker on the last deal told me it's somewhere between 70 and 90% of deals that go to LOI and into due diligence don't close. So
Wow.
as the owner, yeah, it's a massive number. So as the owner that's selling, and you're getting all anxious for the deal to close, you're getting excited, you're pre-buying the new house, you're out test driving cars, you're doing whatever else. How do you keep the level head and keep yourself prepared that at any point in time, until that wire comes across and the ink's dry, they can pull out of the deal? So how do you keep yourself grounded in that?
Don't tell anybody what's going on.
Yeah.
If
That's good advice.
whether it's your family or your employees or anything, if you're at a point in the deal where that it could get canceled like that, that could be really scary for everybody in your life who knew that it was going to happen. And then they see that it doesn't, they're going to wonder, well, what's wrong that this deal failed like that? That stat that you told us about 90% of these deals failing, I had never heard that before. Now, that being said, there was a point in my deal where I thought it was where we weren't going to get over the finish line, but we worked through the issues. So that's something. And I don't know about that deal that you started this conversation with about somebody buying in 2/3. That sounds like a recapitalization, I guess. And in there, man, I'd be looking at that agreement to see what kind of decision making this seller is giving up for that investment to somebody who's never been in this space before. That just sounds like a little bit of a scary deal to me.
Yeah. So this is Steve again here. I actually only gave up 2/3 of the business as well.
Perfect.
So I am the largest shareholder inside of the business. Now, I did this with a company that did not have experience in managed IT services, but did have experience doing a couple of things that I had no experience doing. Very specifically, growing organic sales and marketing and executing acquisitions properly. So when I was looking for a partner for this, I was looking for someone who could help me with those two items. With that said, to echo what Jim is saying here, 100%, if this group is just looking to do this for a financial reason and you're able to take a couple chips off the table for yourself and you feel good about it, that's awesome. Just make sure you're aligned on expectations going forward and realize that you're going to be working, in this case, 2/3 for somebody else. And that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, if you structure the deal right, there's opportunities for you to sell off the other third that you still own. There's an opportunity to still probably leave the business if you're not happy with it, and your shares can stay and ride along with that business until it exits. So, there's a lot of options. It's got to feel what's right for you.
It's really important to talk to people about that deal, to whoever asked that question and who's considering this opportunity. And I mean, talk to a lot of people. I think one of the reasons I didn't use an advisor, I'm pretty comfortable with my ability to negotiate and walk away from deals. I don't get very emotional about it, but I have networked for 25 years in this business and participated, big True Methods guy. So, have a network of people in place who can advise me. And just remember, to the questioner, that the people on the other side of the deal know more about these deals than you do, and it's not even close. So get expert advice.
Yeah. So we got 5 minutes left. I'll give each of you guys a chance for some closing statements. I know you guys have a wealth of information. I mean, between the acquisitions you guys have pulled off, the exits that you've had, maybe if you want to share your details, if people have other questions, they want to reach out to you. Maybe if attendees here are looking to sell their MSPs, there could be a few potential buyers that are on the panel here today. So let you guys have some closing comments, and then we'll wrap it up.
This is Steve. I'm
Go ahead,
going to
Steve.
start. So apologies. Sorry, it's hard without the visual cues. First, I apologize that I'm on audio here. Apparently, the DC area is experiencing a Verizon outage. So that's happening on both mobile devices and local networks, which is impacting me. Wouldn't surprise me if it was related to DNS. But again, apologies. I'm grateful for everyone's time today and welcome anyone to reach out directly. I'm happy to provide advice, connect you with potential sell side support of people who you can trust, and also share with you all the details of the process from our perspective and see if potentially Intiva is a good fit. I agree with everything that Josh shared earlier about making sure that you're partnering with someone that you're aligned with. And my advice to you to add to that is if you're not, make sure it really is a clean exit where you're there and then you're moving past it in a very short period of time or right at close. If you're looking to work with somebody into the future, you've got to make sure that's a good culture fit, or it's not going to be an enjoyable experience, frankly, for anyone. So Colin, what would the best way be to share contact info? Is that something we can send out after, or would you like me to just say it verbally?
You can say it verbally. I will include it in a post webinar email as well. Give your guys, if you guys are open for me sharing your email addresses, I'll share that out and give it out to everybody. Perfect.
That's perfect. Thanks, Colin. So to all that are listening, it is Stephen. I'll give you the easy one. Stephen with a V at Intiva, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom, I as in Igloo, V as in Victor, A as in Alpha.com. Or you could reach me anytime on my cell at 240-601-1140.
We all have your cell number from.
Yeah.
That's the easiest number I ever got.
Oh, how about that?
So in my case, Colin, thanks. As far as if anybody's interested in discussing a deal, a MSP acquisition, in my case, we're very focused on the legal vertical, and IntelliTeach is interested in having conversations with legal-focused MSPs. I think MSPs that are in cities that have NFL teams is usually a pretty good conversation, somewhere in that area. But again, looking for that legal focus. My only advice, I guess, is I approach this deal knowing that I've been giving up a lot of control, making sure that you're ready for that. A good friend of mine who sold her business, she said, when you're selling your business, be prepared to just toss the keys over your shoulder as you're walking out the door. I wasn't quite at that point because I knew that there's still a lot more that we could do. We're building something that nobody has done as far as I know. But at the same time, I'm recognizing that these people that have acquired me are smart people, that they didn't get here accidentally. There's a reason why they're acquiring me. I'm not acquiring them. And that there's a lot for me to learn from both IntelliTeach and the private equity investor. So approaching it with that mindset has made it every day so that maybe there was a decision I would have made in a different way, but I approached it all with an open mind because, again, these are some smart people that I'm working with, and there's a reason why I did the deal.
Big time.
Look, I will just say that exiting your MSP is a massive decision. It's a huge moment. Most of you have put so much of who you are and so much time, maybe even the majority of your working life, into this business. It's been a wonderful story, and you want it to end well. You don't want to find yourself in a situation where months or even a year or two down the road, you think, I wish I hadn't done this. That was a mistake. Because, once you sell it, it's gone. And you're almost certainly going to be locked up to the point that you won't be able to build another one again.
Yeah.
So take your time, make sure you like where you're going. And get yourself prepared. This isn't anything to be taken lightly, and you want to create the ending to your MSP story. So
Absolutely.
All right.
So with that, I'll wrap up with a couple quick slides here. First is stay connected. If you like the content that we did today, we're going to be doing webcasts like this monthly with thought leaders, industry experts that can bring a different take on the information and education that you're looking to find out and learn. So sign up to stay connected with us. You'll get early access to Gradient when we do launch and other timely advice. And finally, sorry, Stephen, since you're on audio, you won't get the full visible, but guys, here's your balloons and bubbles. So congratulations on your own exits, for everything that you guys built. Thank you so much for your time today. Thanks to all the attendees for attending. And we hope everybody has a great day. And, if you need any other advice, feel free to reach out to any of us. Thanks again.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks
Colin.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.